Welcome to my podcast, Unpacking Within. I'm your host, Cam. My podcast is for people rebuilding themselves intentionally. On this podcast, we would like to practice transparency, truth, forgiveness, you name it. We leave nothing on the table when it comes to self-healing and doing the fucking work behind the scenes that a lot of people don't really get to see. I feel like a lot of people like to glamorize other people's lives and think that there's mannish or ill will behaviors that got them to a certain point. And I don't know why that has to be. That's gonna have to be on another episode. On this episode, I really wanted to introduce not just this podcast, but really myself. A lot of people are like, who are you? Where did you come from? Where were you born? And I feel like I've done an episode like this beforehand, but I just wanna bring it back. It feels right. It's the beginning of the year. New things, new goals, new accomplishments that we want to go after this year. So if I could do any of that, happy to, because it means more to me that you all are actually invested in who I am and how I actually got here to this point in my life. There's been no easy road. And I thank God for the grace and the covering and the protection over my life, because sometimes I'm like, how did you get here? But also I'm like, I know how I got here. So as you all know, this podcast really is about identity, growth, prosperity, relationships, self-trust, emotional maturity, and really best of all, becoming who you are meant to be in this lifetime. I wanted to open up this episode to talk about a little bit more about myself. Really, a lot of you have commented and asked and have been sending me messages. Who are you? Where did you come from? You're such a light on my YouTube channel or my YouTube subscribers, and that has made me so happy. I just get so excited when I see stuff like that, because it's like, wow, you actually want to know more about me. I'm sure time will tell, but I wanted to start off with my upbringing and maybe kind of guide you through where I am in life now. I think for me, it seems good to talk about because I don't regret anything from my past. I don't regret how I was born, how I was raised, what family I was born into. I'm very grateful because there were so many lessons that were in that I didn't necessarily see up until now in my life. I'm so thankful that I had the relationship with my mom. I'm so thankful that I had the relationship with my dad that I did, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be where I am and I wouldn't be who I am today. I'm compassionate, I'm graceful, I'm forgiving. I'm not forgetful, I'm forgiving. I'm also a Scorpio. I feel like Scorpios have this rep around secret and spicy and into sex. There's so many things, but some are true, some are not. I think every Scorpio is its own kind of person. I like to think of myself as a more evolved Scorpio. I could be wrong. I wanted to kind of take a step back, reintroduce to you all where I grew up, who were my parents, what I learned about survival, love, relationships, caregiving, silence, strength, you name it. I didn't really realize it at the time, but so much of who I was becoming was definitely shaped by how I was raised. I recently celebrated 30 and it feels so good to be here. I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee, to my mother and to my father. And I don't know, a lot of people know this, but kind of don't know this at the same time. I'm not sure if I've explicitly said this, but my parents were not always around. My biological parents were not always around. I oftentimes went without speaking to my biological mother for sometimes months. I feel like maybe it's been close to a year, but to where she would come in and come out of our lives. My mom was someone who had kids at a very, very young age, and she was not as present as I would like for myself to be as a parent, especially in my child's life. But when I think about my father, I think about him in the same way, but I also knew that there was something that was there that I didn't necessarily know about. Long story short, I think he had a lot of mental complications that were not necessarily addressed, or it wasn't catered to, or we didn't necessarily know about it until we were at an older age to where we understood it. We had people in our lives that were close to my mother. So her aunts, her great aunts, her mother's twin sister. My mom had people in her life to where she allowed them to take care of us. And while she kind of did her thing, I'll kind of have to get into what her thing was in another episode, but I give grace to the situation and I love her and I miss her so much. And I'm so thankful that I even get this opportunity to build the life that I want. And it's because she decided to have me. She decided to give me away to, or give really all of her kids away. It was 5 of us total, 6 now. Give her kids away to people that she knew would take care of them. And I would not trade it in for one single moment. There were times where we felt we didn't know when we would hear from her again. But again, it's not something that I regret. I know what it feels like to have a missing parent or to have missing parents. Now I know how to carry that into my life. Now I know how to carry that into my next generation and say, this is how I plan on showing up for my kids because I didn't really receive this and I know how it made me feel. There's so much joy that I find in knowing who I am as a person, knowing who my biological mother is, knowing who my biological father is, and just accepting that that was just God's story for my life. You can't ask to be born into a certain family, but you can take it with grace and take the mission and take the assignment and go forward with it. Throughout my young childhood years, my aunt, who was actually my mother's twin sister, she raised us from, I think about when I was about first grade up until sixth or seventh grade. I think 6th or 7th grade, she ended up moving to Nebraska. I think she wanted to kind of be like, not a hot girl, but I feel like she was in a house that like got her groove back moment. And I say that to say, like, she abruptly left. And I think she was trying to teach my mother a lesson like, no, come get your children, like you should be with your children. But I just knew that she was leaving and I wasn't necessarily going with my mom. I was going somewhere else with another member of the family. And now that I think about it, it has to be crazy for family members to come together to be like, well, where are they gonna go? It was 5 of us. Well, no, it was 6 of us. I think my little brother was born at that time. It was like 6 of us. And I think my little brother had ended up going back to my mom, but I think my mom had a boyfriend at the time, now that I think about it out loud. But I think the family had kind of came together to be like, where are they going? And I think my older sister and my older brother had already kind of like designated where they were taking themselves or like where they were going. But they were also, I want to say senior year, if not juniors in high school. They were just grown, but still like legally illegal, if that makes sense. I think they were under the age of 18 and 19. I say that to say like, there's so many of our paths to where we feel like, oh, our mother did this, or oh, our father did this. Your mother and your father more than likely did the best that they could. I know mine did, and I don't hold things to their fault. I don't hold a mirror up to the situation. I give grace and I give thanks and I give forgiveness because that's what God gives us. And it's so crazy because the message today at church was really about forgiveness and about love and how God forgives us. I think 7 times, 77 times or something like that. And it's just so true because I feel like a lot of times we feel like, oh, we got the upper hand, we can do this, we can do that. But at the same time, I'm like, I mean, I can forgive you. It doesn't mean that I have to put up with you or welcome you back into my life or back into my space in how the way that, you know, maybe it once did. It does mean that I forgive you and I love you and I set you free to go about your life in the way that is most comfortable or best for you. I wanted to kind of touch on that because, again, I feel so aware and so comfortable in who I am. And I've never felt this way because I feel like as I have continued to do the work and understanding who I am, where I come from, where my upbringing is, what I want out of my life, it's just structured my thinking in a way of saying, you are doing so good for yourself. Keep going at it. You are powerful, you are wonderful, and it's really for you too. Like, to understand where you come from is one thing, but to understand where you're going is another. And I feel like the moment you can kind of mesh those two together to really continue building the life that you want for yourself, it's gonna take you to new heights, babe. It's gonna make you that girl or that boy or whoever you wanna say, like, that's for you. That's not for anybody else. There's so many people that I know that are out here living the life that they want and continuing to build a life that they want for themselves. And it just makes me happy. It makes me happy because I know what it feels like to struggle and to not have the newest shoes or have things that I feel like I should have had because maybe my friends around me had those things. But again, I don't regret not one thing from my upbringing. I grew up without a present mother and I grew up without a present father. That did change later on in my life. I was about 13 or 14 where I moved in with my godparents, and I'll kind of give a quick kind of synopsis of our relationship. I ended up meeting my godparents back when I was in elementary school, and fast forward in middle school, I ended up moving with them. And my godmom had came to me at the time and she was like, I think you should move in with us. I think that she had probably saw something that I didn't necessarily see. Like she probably saw this kid like bouncing from this house to this house to this house. And we had made a connection. However, I think they had left to move away for some time, I think to support their mother at the time, who wasn't doing the best health-wise. And I ended up moving in with them, and I think it just allowed me to see things in life really just in a different way. We started traveling, like my health started being a priority, school started being a priority, and it really gave me the structure that I felt like I was missing. Now that I can say this, it gave me the structure that I feel like I needed for my life. And not only that, but we still are very tight to this day. Like I call them my parents. And a lot of people don't know this, but they're white. It was so strange sometimes going into a store or going to church and people seeing like this little black boy in between this white woman and this white man who's like 6'5", 6'6". And they're like, who is this? And they would be like, this is our son. And they'd be like, what? This is your son? So they would be all like super intrigued. However, I feel like I'm gonna bring my godparents on to the podcast, and I'm gonna have them kind of give their own perspective of our relationship. But I will say that I felt like that was probably one of the best times of my life, especially as a kid, because I had went from failing the 8th grade, not caring about school, not traveling and really seeing the world in a way that the world was meant to be seen, not really receiving God's love in a way that I probably should have been hearing and seeing God's love in my life. Yes, I had gone to church, but there's a certain caregiving component to parents caring for their children. And I felt that. It might have came at a later time, but I felt that. And I now know what it feels like to pass it on to my kids when I do have them. I am planning to have them. Let me just say that. I want 3. My husband wants like 2 at the most, he says, but I'm gonna push it because things are meant to be pushed. And I'm gonna build a life that I want for myself with 3 kids. When I think about God and when I think about the goodness, I think about moments like that. And this is why I say I don't regret anything that I've had to go through as a child. Truth be told, I never knew that I was going through any of those things. I knew that like when I failed the 8th grade, like, oh, like your world is kind of getting shaken up, but you still don't know what you don't know just because you're in a child mind frame. I'll say that after I failed, I think that probably made my godmom push me a little bit more. But I don't think that she knew, like I was fiending for myself a lot with my mother. Like at the time I will say I lived with my mother for a little bit. I think it was my 8th grade year actually that I did fail. And it was because I did not go to school. And I also wasn't pushing myself to like pass. So like in Tennessee, I think there was a moment where you get like 3 absences, like you fail or something like that. Like it was one of those things. And I also knew that some subjects were harder than others. And I never had someone in my life like holding me accountable and like saying like, nah, like you will work hard at this and you will pass at this because I will see this through. Like I was going through life like, okay, I'm going home. I ain't got no homework to do. You know what I'm saying? And having a mother that doesn't necessarily like ask, like, you got homework to do? Like those are all important things. So if you are a mother out there and you do that for your child, continue to do that. There are so many mothers out here that do not do that. And shame on you. If you aren't taking accountability for your child's life, especially at an early life, if you aren't giving them discipline at the various stages or the early stages of their life, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't respect that. I don't like it. I don't know if you may be going through something, but that's just my cliff note, my footnote to you. Do better, hold yourself accountable, continue building the life that you want for yourself, that you want for your kids, because it's not about you, it's definitely about them. And I think about the future, not necessarily the now. But we'll have to unpack that on another day and parents in survival mode, because I feel like that's what it was. My mom had kids at such an early age. I think she was maybe in high school. And I feel like from there, how do you click out of it? I think she ended up having one child after another, after another, after another. And I think there was some breaks in between, like a year break, but definitely between me and my sister. But I feel like maybe 2 years break between my sister and my brother. But there's so many things, again, that I feel like is so important for children to lean on and to understand, especially as they are growing and learning psychologically what love means, what self-care means, what exercising means, what God means. There's so many things that we are learning in those moments. I say we, because I still have my inner child in me, and I love that. There's so many things that I feel like we're learning, or there's so many things that children learn at a young age that they don't necessarily know that they're learning, but it's up to you to teach them those things. This podcast exists for people that have questions about who they are, where they're going, why their life was the way that it is, what they've tolerated, and what they actually want out of life. So with me, I knew and I know still now that I want a growing, successful family, that I am an entrepreneur in my own right, in my own mind. I can make my own decisions. I can call my own shots. I'm the boss of my own life, and all grace be to God and all glory be to God. And I can continue creating the life that I want for myself. I really see myself with 2 kids, 3 kids, hopefully 3 kids max, but continuing to let them know like this world is your oyster. You can do anything you want out of this life. It's gonna come with hard work. It's gonna come with discipline, consistency. It's gonna come with so many things that they will likely have learned at an early stage, because they should be fully equipped to go out in the world and take anything on. I want them to know that they're their own individual. They don't gotta follow in with the crowd. When you see people going or doing something that looks trendy or that looks like stupid, I don't know. My godmom used to tell me this all the time. She's like, don't hang out with stupid people. Just don't. It's not wise to. And there had come a time in my life where I felt like I was making so many bad decisions and bad choices that I needed help. And I don't think that I had those words to say, I need help. But it took a white woman and a white man to come into my life, to see my life from afar and to say, I wanna help, we wanna help. And I just feel so forever grateful for it. This podcast for this year, again, with it being in January, it just feels so good to have a replenished perspective on what I want to do with it and how I want to go about doing things, how I want to accomplish some of the goals that I'm setting out for myself. One is producing consistently an episode every single week for you all to tune in on. So I think I'm going to start recording on Sundays and posting on Wednesdays. Wednesdays feels like a good day as like a week. I need my midweek. It's almost like Bible study. And not that I want this to be Bible study from people, like go do your thing. After Bible study, tune in, because I want to give you a word about not just the life that we're living, but I also want to let you in on some of the things that I may be going through. And I want you to familiarize yourself with me, because more than likely, we are likely going through the same thing, just in unspoken ways. And if there is a way that I can learn from you and you can learn from me, that's why I love seeing comments under my posts, because it's like, people are going through the same thing that I'm going through. And I have so much life experience to where I want to share that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about today is awareness. Awareness is so important, because when you are so aware and so in tune with who you are, then you truly begin to build the life that you want for yourself. It's not all about going out and hanging and eating. Sometimes it just takes you to just sit down or maybe go outside and take like a nice walk and just be intentional about building the life that you want for yourself. I think you do those by 1, stopping, 2, evaluating who you are, what you are, who you've become, where you've come from. Like, there's so many things that I feel like I've gone through personally. I remember, I think I was 19 years old, and I had actually gotten taken to jail for theft. And at the time, it's so crazy because I didn't even steal. Like, I didn't steal anything. I was just like helping other people steal. But there was a time where I had felt like I was making so many wrong decisions. I was in a very tumultuous relationship. The person wasn't for me, and the person didn't have my best interest at heart. I don't feel like, especially knowing what I know now. The person I think was also like 32 or 33. And it just wasn't a good experience, I feel like, for a 19-year-old coming out of high school and to try to build the life that they want for themselves. Like, I felt like I was shot into survival mode. And I feel like it felt good because maybe that's what felt comfortable for me. I had went all of these years with my godparents with food on the table at night, doing, responsible things around the house, like having chores, having discipline, really getting into school and doing some of the things that I've been wanting to do, or like getting scholarships for college, like you name it. It felt so different to be in that state of mind around like, this is what it feels like to be a little successful or to really go after your dreams. And I felt like something in me was happening to where I felt like survival mode was the most comfortable for me. And if you are in that state, just pause. just pause. I would say listen to this podcast, go read books about love, about self-compassion, and about grace, because I felt like if I could go back to that time, I would extend myself so much grace and honor and forgiveness and compassion, because I needed that for my life. I didn't need to run from some of the things that I was up to. I was running from having a lot of responsibility to going into college. A lot of people don't know, but I actually sing. I sing opera and classical music, and I have a huge shout out to give. I'll have to bring her onto the podcast too. To this teacher who took me basically under her wings, and she made me see life from a different way. She was not from the city that I was from, but she was a pivotal person in my life that really made me appreciate and be thankful for what I had, what was in front of me, who my godparents were, the assignment that they had on my life. The list went on, and I didn't realize that up until years later when I started the journey of healing. There's so many things that I feel like sometimes we may take for granted in the moment. I remember she kind of became like my mother at the time, to be completely honest. And I still call her my mom. But she was a person where she held me accountable when my godparents weren't around. And she had a really good relationship with my godparents and like with my school, history, because she had knew that I had failed the 8th grade. My godparents had knew. And like, I think that not that they even said anything, but it takes a village to raise a child or to raise children. And she became a part of my village. And again, I'm forever so grateful. I remember, funny story, after I got arrested, I spent like 6 hours in jail, y'all. Like my ex-boyfriend, or I had called someone and I was like, look, I'm on my way down there. And I ended up spending about 6 hours in jail. It was in like the little horseshoe thing. I ended up taking a mug picture, everything. Like, it was just so real. I think the only thing that I was appreciative of is I was never placed in handcuffs. Like, I was never placed in handcuffs, put into a cop seat car. Like, I had to turn myself in and just suffer the consequences. Like, I was going back and forth to court. That's neither here nor there. Again, we'll have to unpack that later. But she had became a component in my life to where she had saw where I had come from, and she had seen so much greatness in me that I didn't necessarily see myself. And she understood maybe what was happening around me and that I didn't. Although I thought that I could, just because I felt more older than I actually was, just because of some of the things that I had gone through. But also, like, no, I was still a child. I felt like an adult in a child's body. And I feel like my body was rushing to be an adult, but baby, slow down. Slow down. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to slow down and take things in, and just to appreciate where you are, where you've come from, and where you're going, especially as a young adult. I will say another big component for me is growth felt so uncomfortable. It felt uncomfortable to confront where I was or where my life was heading, especially after taking myself to jail, spending 6 hours in the jail, coming out, like the embarrassment, like you have no idea how embarrassed I felt. I felt so much shame. I felt like I am a fucking letdown. And at this time, I had already left my godparents' house and I had moved in with my ex-boyfriend at the time. I don't think they know this, or I don't think they knew this, or even know this. I think they know this now, but I had reached a very pivotal point in my life to where these next few years of your life are gonna make or break you. So it's up to you to decide what you want for your life and go after it. And I will say, not even shortly after we ended up breaking up, and I ended up kind of like building a career for myself, that I was like, I'm gonna just immerse myself in work, because I know I'm a great worker. I know I produce great work. I'm creative, I'm respectful. I know businesses, I know marketing. I was just beginning, and I felt like at that moment, I was dared to confront myself and to say, look at you. And sometimes that's harder said than done, because to look at yourself directly in a mirror and to like reflect on past mistakes, good, bad, and the ugly, like it takes a lot of balls to do that. And especially when you are able to talk about that, or one, I feel grateful that I'm able to talk about that because it's so far behind me, but also at the same time, there are still everyday people that are going through similar things like that because they don't have people around them that may love them and that may want to hold them accountable, or may have somebody in their life that shouldn't be in their life. I am not trying to get my listeners or get you all really to pressure yourself and to do this, do that. I just want you to build the life that you want for yourself. If you want to be successful, if you want a successful business, be intentional about it. There's not much more to the story than just that. I've been seeing this thing around like dedicating your life for the next 6 months to do something just so remarkable. And when I mean remarkable, I mean like something that is like you're truly shooting for the stars and you got the discipline for it, you got the action for it, you got the partnerships for it, you got the consciousness for it, you also have the awareness for it. And I feel like the moment that we wake up and see some of those things in our lives, the more that we're able to accomplish the things just that we want. Again, the life that we want to build for ourselves. Ask yourself, what am I outgrowing? What version of myself am I ready to release? What does choosing differently look for me right now? These are all questions that you can use to start your healing journey or to start building the life that you want for yourself. It's easier said than done, but it's also worth it. It's worth it to wake up in the morning to say, I'm going to go do something great. And I'm going to take one step further closer to my goal to create the life that I want for myself and for my children and for my children's children. This space is for the conversations that we don't always have out loud. I did get a chance to say bye, but I just wanted to say this podcast is really for those that are looking to make a change in their life. And not only that, but like they're so interested in how the fuck do you actually get there? Thank you for tuning in to Unpacking with Them podcast. I will see you next week.